Hey you! This guide is going to be structured very differently from all the rest of my guides, where here I'm going to cover the most important parts right at the start. This is because Whisper's not that hard of a boss. There's a bunch of small stuff you gotta tweak on the Awakened version, but really most of it comes down to 2 points. So I don't want you guys listening to 15 minutes of me talking about the small stuff if you don't need it. So I'm going to cover the most important bits right now, and then you can skim an example kill quickly just to see what it looks like. If you're still struggling after that, that's when you should watch the rest of the guide to figure out the small stuff. But if you watch the first bit and think, hey, that's not too bad, then feel free to just listen to the start, because I don't want to waste your time, just like I don't like other people wasting mine. So let's get into it. So the 3 biggest things about the Awakened Whisper are: first, its sanity drain. You don't regen sanity in the Awakened fight, and you'll get every special at least twice, where you're going to lose sanity very quickly because you're in the Shadow Realm. So to do Awakened Whisper, you have to minimize the sanity drain by leaving the Shadow Realm as soon as possible after every special. So for orbs, just do them faster, and as soon as you remember the rest of the orbs, you can leave the Shadow Realm. For ghosts, this means as soon as you've done your last attack, leave the Shadow Realm. But for pillars, you get locked into the Shadow Realm just before she starts attacking. So if you get locked in, that's an automatic minus 40 sanity. So this takes us to our second big thing about the fight, which is the pillar plugin. Normally, you have to memorize all the pillars, and there's 5 of them instead of 3. But Livey on Twitter found that you can kinda cheese this with the monster HP percentage plugin found in the Runelite plugin hub. I thought they were going to patch this out, so I wasn't sure if I should put it in the guide, but it's been like a month now, so I'm officially using this as the default method to handle pillars. If they patch it in the future, see this timestamp in the guide. I'll tell you how I usually memorize it, or how other people tend to deal with it as well. But basically, get monster HP percentage from the Runelite plugin hub. You can copy the settings from the tweet, but the main thing is to set the low HP threshold to a bit above 80%, and make the default HP color different from the low HP one. I personally don't tick the show all button until she uses the pillar special, otherwise it's going to clog up your screen. So when she's starting the pillar special, turn on the plugin and tick the show all box. Go into the Shadow Realm and instantly come out. It should show you all the updated HPs of all the pillars, and you can just go to them in ascending order. Untick show all to get all the clutter off your screen, and then just turn it back on next time she does the pillar special. Pillars is the single biggest obstacle in Awakened Whisper, so if you can do that, the rest of the boss is almost the exact same as the regular version. This means if you know the basics of the Awakened fight and you have this plugin, you're basically ready to get the kill. But if you don't know the basics of the fight, I'll cover them in a little bit. The last part you should take note of is the enrage phase. Now she's going to alternate between mage and range every attack, and more tentacles spawn, so it's pretty much the same thing. However, you're going to want a lot of sanity and some good gear because this is a DPS check. You're in the Shadow Realm for this phase, and it's very possible to lose a kill even if you played good just because you didn't hit. In the example kill, I ran around her in a circle, and that works, but if you just run between 2 L tiles repeatedly, that always works during enrage, and it's a lot simpler. So I would encourage that you mark some tiles inside the Shadow Realm, or import mine and then use them for the enrage phase. But those are the 3 most important differences between the Awakened and regular versions. We're going to cover the rest of the basics now, so here's a table of contents. Whisper setups. Max Mage is essential for the DPS check, and you can do it in worse gear. For example, Kirby's done one with Sang and Aram's, but it's obviously going to be a lot harder. So personally, I would only recommend doing this if you have a Shadow, or if you don't, then you should have at least Max Mage with the Sang. Venny Bow and Blowpipe are good. You'll be using both if you have them, but if you really can't get a Venny Bow, then you'll be taking like 70 damage and some prayer drain every time you get ghosts. Everything else is pretty simple. Freezes are good because she's going to follow you farther after a special attack, and she sprints for the first few seconds. Her melee attack pretty much one-hits you, so while you can outdistance her, freezing her is very good for quality of life, and you don't need to risk getting one hit. Stam is the same thing. You probably won't need it, but it's nice to have. 4 restores is enough to use them pretty liberally. You can take 5 if you want, and generally speaking you have a lot of space, so you'll want to stay topped up on your prayer because the prayer drain during the Shadow Realm is pretty serious, and you definitely don't want to get smited coming out of a special. So play it safe and get back to full prayer after each time she uses her special attacks. Hard food like anglerfish and karambwans are also good because you'll be using your heart. You generally don't need that much food in the first place, but overhealing can save you from getting one hit, and if you don't have a Venny bow, you're gonna be taking a couple 70s, so the combo food is very useful. So what's the difference between regular and Awakened Whisperer? Awakened Whisperer is essentially a really long Perfectionist fight. Her standard attacks are longer, and the tentacles attack from different layouts. One is simple and has you walk to the corner that doesn't have the tentacle spawn. The other is a mix-up which is meant to keep you on your toes. For this one, just run 2 tiles in the directions without the tentacles. She's gonna speed up as the fight progresses, so be on your toes and ready to react. Keep an eye on your prayers so you won't get smited after you're dealing with her faster attack speed. Like every Awakened boss, she also just hits harder. Don't get hit by her melee attack because she can pretty much one-hit you if you're not praying melee. She speeds up initially after binding you, but you can still outrun this attack like normal if you're precise with it. That being said though, it's not really worth the risk, and that's why most people just take freezes and barrage her as soon as she starts moving to you. On the off chance that you're gonna get meleeed and you can't stop it, pray melee and angler above max HP. I've seen her melee double 60s off prayers, so if you have prayer and you're anglered above max health, you can still survive and that might save you an orb. Keep in mind, her basic auto attacks like melees, mage, and range flicks aren't going to drain your sanity, so you can still get the kill even if you take a melee hit. But most of the time, damage isn't going to be what stops you from getting the kill, it's your sanity. During the Awakened fight, you won't passively regen sanity anymore, and you get drained harder when you're in the Shadow Realm. Since she also has a stupid amount of HP, you'll get multiple of each special attack, and that means you need to preserve your sanity as much as physically possible during the fight. Most Awakened mechanics are just dealing with the specials as fast as physically possible, and then instantly leaving the Shadow Realm to stop getting drained. Lastly, Awakened Whisper also alternates attack styles during Enrage phase, instead of doing 2 attacks of each style. Awakened Orbs is fairly simple. Your time to complete the puzzle is reduced compared to the regular version, so try not to miss ticks, but still be precise so you don't misclick, because you really need the 15 sanity regen from doing this special perfectly. Once you see she teleports to the middle to do the special attack, you should get a little closer, but not directly next to her, to make sure that you're close to the orbs on spawn, but not directly on top of them. If the wrong orb spawns on top of you, you'll take like 70 damage, and you're not going to get the sanity regen, so it's just a very dumb way to lose an orb. If you're clearing orbs quickly and you remember the rest of the pattern, you can actually leave the Shadow Realm early to save some extra sanity. Keep in mind, you're not going to be able to do this if you're really tight on time, because getting out of the Shadow Realm will eat away some of your time, and it might cost you the special. Fully memorizing each orb pattern is also possible, and there's a bunch of tiles for it, but it's by no means necessary, and if you don't feel like learning it, that's completely fine. You don't need it, but for those who do want it, I'll leave Kirby's orb tiles in the description along with his reference kill. Awakened Ghosts are a little different. You now have 4 groups of 3 ghosts, either in a line or in a triangle, and then you have 4 singular ghosts in between each group. The main thing to remember is to blowpipe a single ghost and then Venny bow a group of 3. Rinse and repeat until you've killed everything. When shooting ghosts in a line, you should shoot the ghosts at the ends of the line, not in the middle, or else it's not going to kill all of them. This ensures that you kill all the ghosts in the fastest possible order. Exit the Shadow Realm after you shoot your last Venny bow, and the bounces are still going to register even after you've left. If you missed any ghosts, you'll take big damage, and depending on which ghosts you missed, you won't get your 15 sanity back, and that's really big. So unlike regular Whisper, make sure you kill all of the ghosts during this fight. Pillars is a big thing that trips a lot of people up. Unlike regular Whisper, you now have 5 differing pillars that you need to memorize. You'll always go to the lowest HP pillar, and you have to leave the Shadow Realm early before the Whisper starts its attack. Otherwise, you'll be locked in and the attack sequence will drain about 40% of your sanity on average. Keep in mind, Awakened Whisper attacks faster, so you're gonna have less time to memorize the pillars compared to the regular version. So to help memorize the pillars, a lot of people like to use ShareX and just take a quick screenshot of their screen to remember the pillars. If you've got ShareX, you can configure the settings through your hotkeys to instantly screenshot your monitor and to get it to open the picture or show it on the side. But if you don't want to do that because you don't have ShareX or it's just complicated and annoying, here are some tricks that I use to deal with the pillars. When she teleports south, try to stay relatively centered, and when she spawns the pillars, the first thing you're going to do is immediately run to one of the lowest HP pillars. Try to pick a low HP pillar that's close to the second lowest pillar, but if it's gonna slow you down, don't worry about it for now. Most of the time you won't get punished for this. While you're running to the lowest HP pillar, you're gonna try and memorize the second, third, and fourth pillars. This is because by the time you get to the fourth attack, the fifth pillar is going to be the only one left standing, so you don't even have to memorize that, it'll already be obvious. The main reason most people can't memorize this in time is because they get distracted looking at all the extra pillars with low HP, and they don't focus on the ones that actually matter. Therefore, the goal of this method is to essentially block out all those 1 HP pillars and the full HP pillar from your focus, because as soon as you click, all you have to focus on remembering is the 3 middle pillars that matter. So in your mind, as soon as she does pillars, instantly click to one of the lowest HP pillars, and as soon as you click, only focus on memorizing pillars 2, 3, and 4. The first one and the last one are already free, so you're gonna be good. And if that method doesn't work for you, then I also try and remember them as a line. Most pillar formations tend to go left to right or right to left in ascending order, except for 1 or 2 pillars. So most of the time, all I have to do is memorize the 2 pillars that swapped, and everything else I know is just keep walking left. So in this example, the pillars is literally just a line of walking left. But let's say I stood on the lowest HP pillar in the middle, I know the first pillar is swapped, but after that I just go to the second and then I keep walking left. And this example is just a line going right this time, except pillar 5 is swapped with pillar 4. If you can recognize this pattern fairly quickly, then maybe this method helps you out. So with the specials out the way, we can move on to the general tips. The first can help simplify your movement, but it's not particularly important for the start of the fight. Whisper's normal base attack has tentacles spawn from 8 directions, leaving 1 for you to escape normally. However, if you're within 3 tiles of the Whisper, the direction with a missing tentacle will always be underneath her. So for the first 40% of the fight or so, you know that to dodge her attack, all you have to do is walk 1 step towards her. This can make it a little bit easier because you always have to walk in the same direction. Similarly, this attack pattern can always be dodged by moving in an L formation. I've taken the liberty of marking several L patterns around the room and linking them in the description, and while they won't dodge the 3x3 tentacles that she starts to shoot after 60% health, the L formation tiles will work very well during the enrage phase. My personal recommendation is to get at least the L tiles for the enrage phase, and keep in mind you have to import tiles for both the Shadow Realm and the regular realm. If you don't want to do the L tiles, just running around her in a circle works pretty well too. I didn't take any hits during it, but ideally if you choose to do this, don't make the circle too big. Next is if you don't have a Venny bow or you've lost some sanity from a tentacle or maybe you AFK'd in the Shadow Realm too long. You can minimize the sanity loss during the ghost specials by only killing the ones that say Sanitas. If you don't have a Venny bow, this is pretty much your main strategy, and while you will take 70 damage and you're going to lose some prayer, it technically takes less time than killing all the ghosts, so overall you're going to save a little bit of sanity doing this. You won't get the 75 boss damage and you'll get hit, so I personally wouldn't recommend this unless you don't have a Venny bow, but it's a good plan B if you've burned through too much sanity already and you really need to preserve what you have left. The next tip is simple, but it's that you should really keep an eye on your prayer after a special attack. It's probably not as noticeable in regular Whisper, but the prayer and sanity drain in the Awakened version is serious. And as you get later in the fight, Whisper will have a shorter break between attacks and it'll start to alternate more. If you're going to be prayer flicking and moving a lot, I've seen tons of people get distracted and then get smited because of this. Or they realize that they're low prayer and then they start to panic, they get hit by a tentacle, runs over. And my last tip is to remember that taking a hit does not ruin a run. If you take a base auto attack, it'll hit hard, but that usually doesn't chip your sanity. So unless you get hit by a tentacle or a special, you shouldn't panic. You take 50 damage, sure you take 50 damage. Whatever, you've got hella food anyway. You're gonna be fine as long as you don't let yourself get hit by tentacles or miss like 5 prayers in a row. And even if you do get hit by tentacles, play it out as long as you can, because this practice is valuable. Awakened Whisperer is a long, stressful, and perfection-based task, so the more comfortable you are with the mechanics, the easier it's going to be the next time you attempt it. Staying is going to help you get that much better for the next run, and that goes a long way because this boss is fucking annoying. So the final thing you should probably be aware about is the final phase. It's very similar to the regular Whisper, although it alternates every attack instead of every other attack now. But since Enrage happens in the Shadow Realm, you're going to be losing Sanity and Prayer very quickly. So even if you played everything before Enrage fine, there's a small chance to lose the kill if you're missing ticks and you fail the DPS check. So before the final phase, make sure your prayer's high, you've got augury on, your heart is still active, because that might be the difference between whether or not you get the kill or not. But if you do have a shadow, I wouldn't worry too much. You normally don't fail the DPS check unless you get fairly unlucky. And even if you do fail it, it most likely won't take you very long before you can get to it again. So that's all I got for you. I strongly believe that all you really need to know to get the kill is covered in the first 5 minutes of this video. But if you watched the rest, then I hope that you learned something and it helped you out. There's tons of super small shit about this boss, but I really don't think you want to listen to 20 minutes of super small, unnecessary details. I've also rewritten this script like 5 times because I couldn't find a way to make this guide concise, but still have a high density to it. So hopefully I've managed to strike some sort of balance that works out for you. If you're looking to learn how to do the other Awakened bosses, I've got much better guides on all the rest of them, so I'd strongly encourage that you guys check those out. Example kills and guides are linked in the description, and I hope you guys can get Blood Torva.